Trade Secrets is brought to you by Reuter Ware, business attorneys for business success, and by the Judd S. Alexander Foundation, supporting quality of life and economic development in Marathon County.
Hi, I'm Stuart Etten, president of Reuter Ware Law Firm. Without businesses, communities would not thrive. And without communities, businesses wouldn't, have a place to do business. At Reuter Ware Law Firm, we've been providing counsel to Wisconsin business leaders and been a big part of our community for generations. So you could say we know a little bit about what it takes for the two to work together. That's why we're honored to present Trade Secrets here on WisconsinEye. It's a new series that shares candid conversations between successful Wisconsin business leaders and lets you, the audience, in on what it takes to cultivate both business and community in our great state. From Reuter Ware, thanks for watching and enjoy the show.
One CEO travels to a company to meet another CEO and gets a tour. They talk business, challenges, share stories. Then the host CEO travels to another company, meets the new CEO, gets the tour. They talk business, challenges, share stories. Then we do it all over again. You get the picture. A chain of CEOs traveling around the state, meeting each other, talking business, sharing stories. That's Trade Secrets, CEO to CEO.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Trade Secrets. We're here today at ManpowerGroup in downtown Milwaukee. We'll be meeting with Jeff Joerres and Jonas Prising. Unlike our previous two episodes, which featured Wisconsin-based manufacturing businesses, ManpowerGroup is a services business, a global one at that. Let's go talk to Jeff Joerres and to Jonas Prising. ManpowerGroup has a fascinating history dating back to 1948, when attorneys Elmer Winter and Aaron Scheinfeld founded the company. Many think of ManpowerGroup as a staffing firm, but today, with revenues of over $20 billion worldwide and 3,100 offices in 80 countries, ManpowerGroup is a global workforce solutions firm with services that go well beyond its staffing roots. The company has over 400,000 clients, a direct staff of over 27,000, and employs over 3.4 million workers each year. Manpower moved their operations from the numerous buildings they occupied in Glendale to their current headquarters building located alongside the Milwaukee River in downtown Milwaukee. The building achieved gold status under the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, making it the first new building in Milwaukee to earn that distinction. – 2011 was a significant year for ManpowerGroup. After decades of growth, global expansion, and numerous acquisitions, Manpower Inc. changed its name to ManpowerGroup. Their new name better reflects the growing diversity of its service offerings. Under the parent brand, the business operates 4 brands including Manpower, Experis, Right Management, and ManpowerGroup Solutions. In addition, this was also the year that ManpowerGroup announced the dawn of a new era, the human age, noting that human potential has become the major agent of economic growth, and access to talent replaces access to capital as the key competitive differentiator for organizations. Jeff Joerres, who was named CEO in 1999 and chairman in 2001, is now executive chairman, and Jonas Prising, who Jeff hired in 1999, has been named CEO. Jeff presided over ManpowerGroup at a time of great change and significant growth. Revenues were $10 billion when Jeff took over in 1999. Today, revenues exceed $20 billion. Jonas arrives with the goal of building upon the strong foundation that each of the previous CEOs established over the company's 67-year history. Jeff and Jonas, thanks for taking time out of your day to appear on WisconsinEye's Trade Secrets.
Should be great fun.
I think so too.
Look forward to it.
So the first question is a rather obvious one. ManpowerGroup derives an enormous majority, 85% of your revenues from outside of the U.S., yet you're located right here in downtown Milwaukee. So what is it about doing business in Wisconsin and in Milwaukee that makes sense for your organization?
Well, you know, there's no mistake that we're here. We were founded here. And while we do have 85% of our business outside the U.S., we really consider this to be home. And the fact that we're close to an international airport, we've got many national companies headquartered here in Milwaukee. It is actually an easy place to stay centered, to be global, but to not get caught up too much in the things that may be distracting to us.
And since a lot of our business is local, you know, this combination, just like Jeff talked about being local and global, is really nicely epitomized by being here. We are very local. We're very interested in the local community. We're interested in what happens in Wisconsin and in Milwaukee. But at the same time, we can live in this dual world. We're also a global and very big company.
And while we all run global companies, we are American, even in the case of Jonas, who got citizenship just not that long ago. And we are from Wisconsin, and it's about building and contributing to that as well. You can't be beholden. We've got to make choices for our shareholders. But at the end of the day, this is a great place to be, and you've got to make it better, and you've got to be part of that equation.
And we take great pride being part of a community such as Milwaukee and being part of a state such as Wisconsin. And if you were to ask us, I mean, what would be our biggest dream and come true, it would be that people would view Wisconsin as the best state to come and invest and put your business in, and Milwaukee to be the place that's known for innovation, great talent, where companies would die to come and put their business investments and establish their companies in. And those really are the areas where you'll see us be very active. We are active in trying to influence educational policy, do what we can through the great work that our employees do through volunteerism. The causes that we choose to support are really all aimed at that objective, to make a difference, to contribute to the progress of both the city where we're based as well as to our home state.
A big part of your culture, from what I understand, is this notion of doing well by doing good. So maybe what are a couple examples of how that plays out differently in different countries around the world? Because I assume the culture has a great deal to say about how that all works.
It means that in Mexico, for instance, where we employ over 85,000 people on a daily basis, we have a big operation, a big complex operation. We're very important for that country's labor markets. We are actively involved with the government, suggesting employment policies and things that we think can be done to improve the employment situation for those that are outside of the labor market. So we combine, our business knowledge and our weight there to try and influence and guide policymakers for the areas that we know something about. And also, our people take great pride and passion in the fact that when they put those 85,000 people to work every day, they don't think about that as an activity of volume or size. They think about each individual that I now helped find something to do this month or this year. I'm helping his or her family, live and live a better life. And we emphasize, both aspects. That's the essence of doing well while doing good. We want to do extremely well as a business, but we never want our people to lose sight of the fact that what we do matters. It matters for the individuals that we place at work, and it matters for the communities and the countries where we do our work. And that gives us tremendous strength and passion within the organization in terms of how we look at our work and the energy that we put into it.
ManpowerGroup is thought by many to be a very large staffing company, but the truth is that your services go well beyond what a typical staffing company would do.
Well, I think that's where some of the history is a great advantage and sometimes a hindrance. So you've been in business for 67 years and you started at something and it had great recognition, and we actually have a name that in the dictionary means what we do, which not many companies, in fact the New York Stock Exchange does not like that. You can't be named bakery if you're a bakery. Well, that's what our name is. When it comes to it, Manpower is about putting people to work, and that's what we do. But we do so many other things. So we don't want to give that up. But what we've done is we've changed some of the brandings that we do. So we have some sub-brands that operate. But most of all, what we've done is gone to our clients, because about 50% of our business is on contract clients, and explain to them what else we do. And in fact, some of the fastest growing parts of our business are the non-traditional parts of the business. So it's really worked out well, and we can continue to see that the growth will come from both areas, but some of the growth with the higher margin will come from the areas we just started maybe in the last 5 and 10 years. I just want to just scream sometimes when a client says, I had no idea you did that. And we do $2 billion of IT, augmentation, SAP programs, project managers, work with high-end. Oh, I thought you were just doing some incidental temporary help. So we still have work to do, but we don't want to get rid of that brand, which everybody knows across the world. So it's going to be a process.
As you think about the next 5 years, is the strategy to take what you've built and grow it, or to continue a diversification strategy, or maybe could be that it's some of both?
Well, he's the next 5 years, so.
Well, we since the strategies are all derived from looking at what's happening in the market and what our clients are telling us, we feel very comfortable that the strategic choices that we have made, will serve us extremely well also going forward. I'm equally sure that as the markets evolve, there will be new things that we have to consider, new opportunities that we can seize. So it's really about taking what we have built so far and continuing to expand those platforms, and always being very, very aware of what the clients are saying and where the markets are going and what changes that we see.
We used to be responding to exactly what the client asks us for. We want 5 people that have this kind of skill. We want 5 people that have this kind of skill. What we're now doing is saying, maybe we should talk about what kind of skills do you really need? Where do you need it? What's your employer brand? Why are you presenting yourself the way you're presenting? Are you located in the right spot? Do you have too much in Asia, not enough in Central Europe, too little in South America? So we're really becoming a different part of the dialogue about the solution of the entire workforce, not just a sliver of it, which is supplementing some talent in a certain way. So really, it's the discussions have gotten much more complicated and have much more value. So we walk in really feeling a lot of pressure, because these are not easy. These are big companies with smart people, and they're asking the expert. So we've got to really kind of play taller. Every single game we have to keep playing taller, because it's getting more complicated out there, and companies realize it is talent, but yet they don't know how that translates into their behaviors or how they set up work models within their company. So it's going to be quite a journey, and what's exciting about it is whatever the answer is today, most likely it's going to be a different answer 2 to 3 years from now. So it really keeps our company extremely fresh.
We actually have a name for this. We call this the human age. Is that when we look at some of the structural changes that are occurring in lots of labor markets all over the world, they're not only cyclical, the recessions, coming in and out of recessions, but a lot of these are structural. Demographics, an aging workforce, technology, what's going to happen there with productivity, what kind of skills you need, when you come out of school so you can get employed. How are the individuals thinking about this? How do they see their future? Are they intending to change jobs once in their career, or do they think they're going to change jobs 14 times in their lifespan? All of these are structural changes that we see are really coming together at a time where we believe, when we're going to look back 20 or 30 years from now, we're going to point at this time and we're going to say, this is one of those moments where the paradigm shifted and talent really, from having been something that everybody says, it's our most important assets are people, truly we believe, having access to the right talent at the right time, at the right place, is going to be a key differentiator strategically to ensuring that both companies and countries succeed in what they're trying to do.
So one of the, called a cruel irony that we've heard about in the last 2 episodes, is that in a period of relatively high unemployment, many people talk about talent shortages that are critical and impacting their ability to grow. So it's certainly something you've talked and written about as a firm.
Well, the talent shortages, it's one of these vexing problems, just as you described it, with unemployment being high and very high in some areas, and yet companies and organizations saying they have a tough time accomplishing what they need to accomplish because they can't find the right people. But there are some skills that are very difficult to find. And part of the reason why they're difficult to find are those structural changes that we talked about before. Technology is changing the workplace very rapidly and very quickly, which means your skills, if you're not in the labor market and or if you're not committed to learning as you are in the labor market, or in your workplace, you could have your skills atrophy and you can find yourself less competitive and up to speed on what is required in this new world. And you also have employers that are very, very attuned to how they manage their workforces. They are really in the game of just-in-time hiring. And we've seen this with many employers, how they're very selective, they're very clear about what they need, and frankly, if they don't find what they need in a certain place at a certain price that makes them competitive in their industry, they now have options with the help of technology that they can get this work done somewhere else, in another state or in another country.
At the end of the day, demand trumps all, and we haven't had in many sectors enough GDP growth and demand for companies to have to look for something less than exactly what they want. So we've got a ways to work out of this, and the atrophy of skills is immensely important. Same bed, different dreams. That individual's thinking, I've got all the skills needed, and the employer's saying, no, you're weak on this. I'm not going to have a $5 million CNC machine being operated by you. And that's the kind of challenge that we're in right now.
Pretty good example, and even in manufacturing, it's become highly skilled in terms of what's required for people to.
And highly skilled used to be highly skilled with your trade or your journeyman kind of certification. Now it's highly skilled in multi-dimensional ways. Math at a different level, communications at a different level, being a team leader at a different level. So the bar is getting raised, and the employment that companies need to be productive is going down. So it's at a point right now where we need to really make some hard choices and get people trained up in order to be ready for the next 10 to 20 years.
But we've done a lot of work. We looked at lots of companies and countries that have managed to better bridge this gap between the haves and the have-nots in the workforce. And it's clear that the closer and the more exposure at an early age that you can give kids that are coming into the workforce or students already in higher education to the actual workplace, the better off you are. So internships, apprenticeships, programs that are supported like that by companies and institutions and policymakers, because it's really a combination and collaboration between all the stakeholders, gives a better outcome.
So now what you have are those that are at a university in a system that allows for productive, challenging internships. And by the time they graduate, they have 3 or 4 major internships that bring them out as a ready-to-go employee. Others, not aware of that, are working retail or doing something not adding to their experience, and they're looking at the job application. It says minimum 2 years experience. It's a catch-22. How do I get it? I don't have the job. Well, there are some coming out of university and college with 2 years experience because they've been doing heavy internships and apprenticeships. So we have to be careful that this is a great solution. We see it happening more and more, and we're involved in it and getting young people into internships, but it actually may leave more behind if we're not careful.
And actually, Wisconsin is the first state in the country as it relates to apprenticeships. We have a long history, for instance, of apprenticeships and internships, and are seen as a leader in that field. And we know that the state and the governor are looking to invest even more in that area because the evidence is pretty clear. It does help move people from being outside of the workforce into a position where they can succeed and choose gainful and careers, find gainful employment and build their careers. So we actually are in a good position, I think, in terms of the realization of the things we need to do to really continue to build on what we have and be successful in the future.
On this general subject, maybe this is a good time to add this. So what sort of advice might you give to a young person today who is thinking about his or her future in terms of how they can prepare themselves for the work world ahead? Any life lessons that you might impart to folks that will be watching this?
I don't know, it makes you feel old when you're giving life lessons. So Maybe I'll start as the old guy in the group here, but I don't know if that much has changed. You have to take risk. If you don't take risk, it's not going to get anywhere. And you have to be careful that you are aware that you are as defined by what you don't do as what you do. Mm-hmm. And people think they're only defined by what they do. It's what did you turn down? Which avenue did you decide not to pursue because you didn't have passion for it or because you weren't really qualified for it? So at the end of the day, you've got to be engaged. You've got to be bringing your game every day. And this whole notion that everybody's going to be a rock star entrepreneur, we got to be careful with that. It's okay to work within a company and get some experience and then maybe decide to go out. But take some risks and understand that you have some choice and don't just go down the chute because everyone else is going down that one chute.
Yeah, and as I talk to, young people that come into the company, our company, or that, that we see that are looking for opportunities with our employer clients, I try to tell them, be passionate but with a purpose. This whole notion of you have to be, it's true, if you're passionate about something, you're more likely to succeed than if you go into something that you absolutely don't like doing. So no question about that. But doing it with a purpose, building up, trying some things, deciding the things you like, and then also ruling things out that you don't like, that you don't think is good, is going to help you make choices all the time. What kind of education should I pursue? What kind of company should I work in? A big company? A small company? Should I work, for the government? Should I be working for a private enterprise, a non-for-profit? I mean, all those choices, as you make them with exposure to what they are going to help you get and find the right place. Doesn't mean you can't change after a while, but being more deliberate in the choices, as difficult as it may be, I think would be good to have in the forefront.
How do you think about innovation as a lever for your success going forward? I guess it's probably two-part, one for your clients and internally.
Innovation in the past, and ourselves included, when we came up with Skillware or the predictable performance system, we could run that for 8-10 years. Version 2 was after 2 years. Version 3 was after 5 years. Well, right now, the innovation windows and the pace of innovation, the whole notion of Moore's Law to the individual, not just to technology, is out there. So you've got to get it fast, and then you've got to realize it's not going to save you for the next 5 years. And that's what's changed, is this notion of agility and how you get to innovation. It's not as episodic. It's not as grandiose. You can still invent penicillin potentially, but it's different. And it's these little innovations, going after these market opportunities fast, creating the innovation and building on that consistently, as opposed to one, milk it, S-curve, hope for another one. Right. It's different now, and agility is a key part of innovation.
You may have to be able to understand an opportunity, exploit it to its fullest, and full well know that this is all going to end in 4 years. But you're able to do it very quickly, and you're able to seize the moment and get the most out of it, but then be also prepared to move out of that and on to the next thing at a much more rapid pace than in the past.
So both of you have had the real benefit and opportunity to travel around the world, and you see how lots of big companies and small companies get things done. Do you have any sage advice for people who are running businesses in terms of what they should think about and how to prepare themselves for the brave new world?
Well, I've tried to give all of my sage advice to Jonas, though I'm not sure how sage it's been. I don't know. I guess across the world, keep your ego out of the equation. I've met many great companies and many great CEOs, and I'm still confused on how they seem to be operating it for themselves in one way or another. Not so directly, but the clients are out there. Listen to them. People want to do a good job in your organization. Give them clarity. Be a cheerleader about it. I don't want to make it sound easy. It's not. It's much easier when you say, hey, what I've got to do is to just channel all of this great stuff, what my clients are telling us and what our employees are telling us, and be an alchemist and put that together. And that's what I would say, is just, listen and be pragmatic about it.
And having acquired, all of the wisdom from Jeff over many years, I couldn't agree more with what he said, first of all. But secondly, I would say,
Perfect answer.
the important thing is, take this notion of people are your most important asset in the broadest sense is true wherever we do business. Whether it's a highly technology-enabled business that has mostly robots, or whether it's a service industry, we believe to our very core that having access to the right talent at the right place is going to be the competitive differentiator that you need to be deliberate about, and that it is a human age, and that you need to think about your workforce strategies in a way that are different from the past, because it's not going to be what it was before. It is changing, and it is changing at an accelerated pace. So if you're not aware of that, become aware of it, and if you are aware of it, do something about it. Because I think some of the things that we are seeing now, and the reactions, be it from educational institutions or policymakers or things like that, they were all things that we saw coming. Demographers have talked for ages about, the aging workforce. And suddenly, everybody's worried that, the average age of welders in Wisconsin is 55, and the talent pipeline through schools is excessively poor. We've known about this for a while, and we haven't done much about it. So I think inform yourself and look at what's happening, and then take action, because when and if you do, there'll be tremendous opportunities that your company will benefit from.
Well, I want to thank you both. I'm sure that one thing that the city of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin would have a consensus on is that we're both fortunate to have ManpowerGroup based here. So thank you both for your time and your willingness to participate in this.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Trade Secrets has been brought to you by the law firm of Ruder Ware and by the Judd S. Alexander Foundation.